What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. We got a special episode for you guys this morning. We're going to go over our 2023 quarterback dynasty rankings, and we brought in Jesse to help us do that. How's it going, Jesse?
It's going good. Good morning. This is
Happy
it. This is
Super Bowl weekend.
this is like our. I guess you can't call it Christmas because it's not quite as exciting, but it's the last weekend we get until the draft starts up.
Well, we're going to be getting combine and trades and free agency going in a couple weeks here, so that's definitely exciting. I think what we're going to try and do going forward is we're going to try and continue to do, so like the next video that we have Jesse on for, we're going to do a running back dynasty rankings. We'll do a separate wide receiver one, a separate tight end one, and then probably maybe sometime like early April, we'll have our final rookie discussion where we kind of just do a rookie mock draft or something like that and can learn more along the way. We got tons to learn about those guys. So for today's focus, we're just kind of focusing on current quarterback rankings, and essentially we're each going to draft our own. We're each going to draft our own rankings. And we'll get to the rookies down here at the bottom, but the main focus is for 2023. Which quarterbacks are you, especially like in a startup, like which quarterbacks? That's kind of the thinking here, I think. And I don't know, Jesse, do you want to lead us off with your? Who's the number? Like, there's a couple guys here at the top of the list. I think it's a good top 5 or 6. But if you're starting a dynasty league draft tonight, who's the first QB taken off the board?
Yeah, so I think I go Patrick Mahomes here. And I know he's probably the consensus 2 on most lists when you aggregate it all. I've just been leaning Mahomes over Allen. Just looking at this past season, just thinking about their body of work, the kind of quarterbacks they are. I think Mahomes obviously is the best passer in the league, and he's now proven he can do it with anybody. I mean, maybe a knock on him going into the season was, he lost Tyreek Hill. Well, he's kind of proven that he can still lead the league in touchdowns, and he can still do it all. Allen obviously is fantastic. He can run, he can pass, he can do it all. I think the hits are starting to take a toll on his body, maybe. And I think this last season we kind of saw he's put everything on his shoulders. He's trying to do it all, and that can lead to errors, trying to be the hero all the time. I just think that the way he plays, it's not going to last forever. That style, he's going to have to scale back his rushing. And when that happens, I think Mahomes, just from a passing perspective, is, he's the top of the board for me.
I'm also willing to put Mahomes as my number 1 QB, and he did beat out Josh Allen by about almost 18 points this season. Their averages are basically the same. If I go back to even 2021 stats, you're probably going to see Josh Allen go over. Let me refilter that here. Josh Allen was QB1 in 2021. Mahomes had a little bit of a down year, and that's weird to say. But the fact that he did more with less this year, I saw a stat where he led the league with touchdowns inside the 5-yard line. Like that offense and just how they operate, it's meant for Mahomes to throw touchdowns. And with Josh Allen, the body hits can start mounting up, and you also have like Stephon Diggs, man. Life after Diggs, like that's something to think about too in maybe another year or two, because Diggs is probably approaching 30. He's probably 28, 29, right? I guess the same can be said for Travis Kelce, but I think Mahomes has shown us enough that like it doesn't matter who they give him. Like he's making magic with Kadarius Toney, MVS, and a bunch of junk at running back. So I think he's kind of bulletproof. We'll both put him at our number 1 position. And then does that mean Josh Allen's our number 2? Do you have anyone else to contend with number 2?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting because I think Hurts is like kind of like a weird. He moves. Sometimes he's as high as 1. Sometimes he's as low as 5 or 6 on people's lists. Hurts is the other guy that I'd consider. He's got the age on his side, and I think he's got. I mean, the offense on his side is, that offense is built to be good for the next few years, right?
AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, Miles Sanders, Dallas Goedert, oof.
Yeah, I mean, the offensive line is the best in the league. It's certainly interesting to think about. I think I take Josh Allen just because I think we've seen the ceiling.
Yeah. But Hurts was the number 1 QB in points per game this season. It's just a matter is that sustainable? We are not sure. I think if I were to ask you over the next 2 seasons, would you rather have Hurts or Josh Allen? We're probably going to take Hurts.
Probably, yeah. I mean,
you take Hurts, but in a 5-year span, you're probably going to go with Josh Allen.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And it's for fantasy, the rushing quarterback, you need it, especially in a redraft league when only one season on the line. you want the rushing quarterback. But in a dynasty, you got to kind of think about like how sustainable are these guys over the long haul.
So are we putting Hurts at number 3, or I might differ. I might prefer someone else over Jalen Hurts at 3 just because some of the longevity and kind of the prove it situations. But when I'm drafting these dynasty guys, I'm trying to think of my quarterbacks for at least the next 5 to 8 years because I don't want to have to worry about that position. So do you lock in Hurts at 3, or are you looking elsewhere?
So I think before the season, if you would have asked me, I would have had probably Herbie as a top 3 guy. But I'm a little nervous about that team now. They're going through offensive coordinator changes. There's rumors that they're cutting Keenan Allen and Gerald Everett. So, like, where do they go to, like, build around Herbie? So, from the talent perspective, I think probably top 3. From a organization perspective, I think I got to go Hurts just based on the talent around Hurts.
Okay. I think maybe after the draft, maybe if the Chargers deliver Herbert some goodies, maybe we'll have a different take there. Because, I mean, if they pull in a wide receiver like Smith-Njigba round 1 and get some other help or a tight end or something like that, maybe there's some fun there. But I think – so I'm going to put Jalen Hurts at your number 3. I'm taking Joe Burrow over Jalen Hurts. Just because you're locking yourself into Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. I would imagine there's going to be a new running back at some point in the next year or 2 for the Bengals. Joe Burrow, man, I don't know if we've seen his ceiling yet. What if this is Jalen Hurts' ceiling? I don't know if he can play. Is it more likely that Joe Burrow hasn't found his ceiling, or Jalen Hurts hasn't found his ceiling yet? I think there's more to go up there with Joe Burrow. I'm going to put Hurts at number 4. That's no problem. Are you looking at Burrow number 4? Or do you have someone else in mind there?
Yeah, I mean, I love what I saw from Herbie. I mean, just he still had a decent, a quality season, but it just wasn't. There was lacking. I mean, the injuries were really added up, and I think he, unlike Mahomes, he's not that guy who can guarantee you points regardless of who's around him. I think he needs the system, and uncertainty with. I like Kellen Moore, but there's uncertainty, obviously.
Yeah, the one thing, because I watched pretty much like every Chargers game this year. Obviously, he had the rib injury week 2, and that definitely hampered things. But he also was without Keenan Allen for 2 months, and then Mike Williams missed a handful of weeks. The offense was never healthy. Even his offensive line, he lost Rashawn Slater. A couple other pieces on that offense were in and out. I think his center Corey Linsley was in and out. And then when they did get into the red zone, Austin Eckler was running touchdowns. So this is like a buy low opportunity, I think, for Justin Herbert, because who knows if Kellen Moore can figure it out. Herbert was QB 11 last year. You're probably not going to get too many more seasons like this. So I'm open to buying him low. But are you going to put Herbert or Burrow at 4?
Long-term play, I think Herbert can bounce back. Short-term Burrow. It's really a tough one. I think they're going to go back-to-back for me. But yeah, I'll take Burrow right now. I think Burrow's.
And then do you want to lock in? Do you want to lock in Herbert at 5, or do you have someone else there? Because I'm going to probably lock Herbert in at 5 as well.
Yeah, I think these are. It's from the top. You can kind of tell who the top talent is here. And I think there's just questions around Lamar. There's questions around a couple of these other guys on the list. I think there's one interesting, younger guy here coming up. And Mr. T.
I just want to kind of recap our top 5 because you got Mahomes, Allen, Hurts, Burrow, and then we did put Herbert there at the end of it. But so Joe Burrow, he's not going to get the rushing upside of a Hurts and Allen or Mahomes. He can get rushing touchdowns, but I think that's what's going to keep him kind of not in the top 1 or 2 unless there's injuries to these guys here. But I think Burrow's probably he's going to be a top 5 lock every year that he plays a full season, I would say. Just because there's just too much to like on that offense, and they're improving that offensive line. They're going to be a contender for years to come. But I don't know what it's going to take for him to lead the league as a quarterback, overall quarterback 1. He's probably going to have to throw like 45 touchdowns or something like that, which he'll get one of those seasons eventually. But I just think for the safety standpoint, Joe Burrow, between Allen, Hurts, I think Joe Burrow is probably the safer play between the two for the next decade. But we'll see. It's an interesting top 5. And then where do you go at 6? Because now we're looking at some rushing quarterbacks and a young Trevor Lawrence. There's some fun options here. Where do you lean 6?
Right. Yeah. So yeah, this is where you kind of get those questionable guys who made it, boom, QB1 seasons type, but the sustainability is not going to be there. To your point about the Burrow, he might not have the ceiling, but like he's kind of like a Tony Romo. He's going to keep chucking the ball and putting up good points. So just a quality guy. So next, and then this is a lot of questions here. Lamar Jackson, the injuries they're piling up. What's the offense going to look like? We're not sure. Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville, kind of the rising star, right, with Justin Fields. You have Kyler Murray, same questions. He doesn't have his coach who he had in college. Deshaun Watson, how's he going to look next year with a full offseason program? I mean, he's kind of the guy here who, like, you think if he returns to form, he's probably slopping into a top 3 spot. If Deshaun Watson goes off, looks like he did before, everything went down, he could be a top 3 guy because he's still relatively young. He could have a lot of elite years. We've seen it before. But I think I'm going to go with Lamar Jackson because we've seen the ceiling. And I have confidence that Baltimore as an organization, they're going to bring somebody in who's going to be able to, attract Lamar to stay. I think it's just a good spot for him ultimately to stay. And they're going to build around him. We've seen it before. When he's healthy and optimized, he's just a superstar.
I like the Lamar Jackson staying in Baltimore theory. I don't know, man. It's kind of tough because why didn't they pay him already? If they were going to do it, they would have done it already. So I'm kind of hesitant on that. Maybe he finds a new home, but either way, you're weighing Lamar Jackson versus Justin Fields. I might argue that I'd rather have Justin Fields for the next few years, just because he's young, he's fresh. The Bears are kind of loaded and flush with picks, and consider how well he played this year with nothing around him. That's pretty freaking scary. You have a potential Lamar Jackson ceiling with Justin Fields. Who would it surprise me if Justin Fields won an MVP in a year or two? He'd have to win a lot of games in order to do that, but the fantasy numbers were incredible for a little stretch there. So if they continue to build around him, very exciting. So Justin Fields, Lamar Jackson, that's almost like a coin flip to me. And then you do have Trevor Lawrence, who is your prototypical guy who if we were to have the same show next year, would it surprise you if we have Trevor Lawrence in our top 5 of QB rankings? I'm going to say probably not, because you're adding Calvin Ridley with Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram. We'll see what they do in free agency, but Trevor Lawrence is right there as well. But I think you have to give the nod. I'm going to put Lamar Jackson there just out of respect. But I'm going Justin Fields versus Trevor Lawrence, man. That's the next conversation for me. Is I like Kyler Murray. I like Deshaun Watson. But in terms of dynasty, you're looking at some this is the future of the NFL right here. I think in a year or two, these are going to be the guys that kind of creep into the top 5. I don't know, man. It's a coin flip. Do you go Trevor? Do you go Justin Fields, or do you still like one of those veterans at 7?
Yeah, I mean, get Trevor a line, and he's we're talking about Trevor Lawrence like we're talking about Burrow and Herbert. Safe guys, consistent. He's athletic.
QB7.
I mean, he's athletic too, man. I mean, that's but he's smart, It's not like he's like, see, the thing about Josh Allen, that man just throws his body. Like, he just does not care what happens to it. But I think Trevor's a little more conscious about it. So, I mean, that's sustainability right there. I mean, the weapons look good. Just get the man in O-line, and I think he's, you said it, we'll be talking about him in the top 5 next year. So, I lean Trevor, yeah. Justin Fields in Chicago. Why is it that I just can't trust a Chicago quarterback? I mean, when's the last time we've been able to trust a Chicago quarterback for multiple seasons?
We've never seen one do what he did, though. It was pretty dang scary. This run from about week 7 towards week 15, he was the guy. He was the one you wanted.
He missed the game in there.
We're going to talk about sustainability, though, with him, because you can't be giving the man 18 carries.
I mean, look at that. Yeah, I mean, that stretch is insane. It's Lamar Jackson. I mean, it's a Lamar Jackson stretch, but he did it with his legs and
the touchdowns in every single game. It's insane. I'm gonna do something a little crazy here. I'm gonna actually bump Lamar Jackson to my 7 spot. I'm putting Trevor Lawrence here at number 6, just because I value consistency. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be someone that I can trust. Lamar's had some injuries the last few years. Baltimore's offense, it seems like every year they're leading the league in big playmakers being injured. They lost Rashad Bateman. You have J.K. Dobbins coming back, which could steal some touchdowns in the future. I think there's too many questions with Baltimore where I kind of see Baltimore's trajectory maybe going slightly down, whereas it's pointed up with Trevor Lawrence there in Jacksonville. So I'm just going to swap him in there. And then I think I'll flip Justin Fields into my 8 spot. I mean, comparing him against a Kyler Murray, it just seems like anything that can go wrong in Arizona will go wrong with him under quarterback right now. Deshaun Watson's an exciting player, but we're kind of getting into those guys that are kind of in their prime. They're past their puppy days, but they do have questions. But I think as far as upside, man, I'm going to put Justin Fields here at QB 8, and it's just crazy because like when he was on his run, like he was QB 1. Like he was up there with the fact that he finished QB 6 and he missed how many games? What the frick is Geno Smith doing on this list? But yeah, I'll put Fields at 8. Did you want to do the same, or are you looking elsewhere?
I honestly, I think you talked me into Trevor Lawrence above Lamar Jackson. Just kind of, I think we've talked ourselves into it. So I'll take Trevor over Lamar, and I'm going to do the same kind of concept as you here. Put Lamar and Justin back to back. Lamar's just done it a little bit more. And then I think Fields is a guy who, we could be talking about him. He can have a mega season where he's QB1, just like Lamar did a few years ago. The problem is after that season, what has he done? It's been in and out of injuries. You need a solid QB2 if you're going to go that route, especially in a super flex, which I'm, always consciously thinking about as, particularly as a Lamar Jackson owner. It's a tough QB to have on your roster. You love him and you hate him.
Well, I think when you roster a guy like Lamar or Justin Fields or even Kyler Murray for that, you're going to want to lock him in with like a stable court, like a pocket passer, the one guy that you can kind of rely on to be there as your standard QB1. But when those running backs, the running quarterbacks are healthy, it's a cheat code. We know that. But now we kind of got that's a fun top 8. Like it's super sexy. But now we're looking at Kyler Murray, who's got questions. Deshaun Watson, who's got a bajillion questions. Dak Prescott, tons of questions with him. Like, is he the guy in Dallas for the future? We don't even know. And then you got Tua, Trey Lance, and then we're going to get to some dirty QBs, whether it's Cousins, Jones, Carr. It's a little bit messy here. But are you just going to kind of rapid fire some of these guys in here? Do you like Murray more than Watson? Or for me, it's purely I'm purely looking at these two for number 9 and 10, and then we'll get to the rest here. But what's your stance here on number 9?
Yeah, I think this is where I go to the Deshaun Watson and say, I'll take the upside of what he can do if he returns to prior status. We saw him get a little bit better as the season went on.
I mean, these are floor games for him going forward. He did have a nice 3-touchdown game here against Washington. Slightly concerned that he didn't really get to this is 42 passing attempts, and he only put up 276 yards. Not the best. 31 passing attempts against New Orleans, only 135 yards. But again, he's just getting his feet wet here with this new team. You got Amari Cooper, David Njoku. Maybe they add some guys around him to throw the ball. So I think there's more excitement there. And then Arizona, they don't even have a coach yet. It's we don't know what.
I'm nervous about Kyler, man.
Does you have the question of does he have it? Is he the leader meant to lead a franchise to a Super Bowl, or is he just a guy that's going to accumulate some stats and maybe get hurt for a couple? It just seems like he's going to have a great September. November comes around, he has his lull when the new Call of Duty comes out, and then he'll have a couple peak games in December. But I think we're going to put Watson here above Murray just because there's a little bit.
I think so too. Let me ask you this:
Yeah,
if we got a news announcement on a Thursday morning that Kyler Murray retired to go play in the MLB, would you be how shocked would you be? I wouldn't be that shocked.
It wouldn't faze me.
Of top tier talent in the NFL, he'd be the least shocking of to retire. He just, I
just want to look at his numbers from this season. So he's putting up 18.2 points per game, which is fine. Missed the second half of the year. You owned Kyler Murray in our big league here. What was the first 9 weeks when you had him, were you satisfied here? He had a couple games here in the teens, a couple games in the 20s. Was this someone that you wanted? Did he leave you wanting more?
Right. I mean, when you take a guy like Kyler in your draft, you're taking him in a super flex in the top 2 rounds, and you're expecting to see some ceiling games. And I mean, 25 was his ceiling all year, which to me was fine. But there's a lot of like mid-teen games there. From a guy like Kyler, I'm expecting floor games to be closer to 20. So I was left wanting a little bit more.
It seems like he wasn't running as much as he had been earlier in his career. So we're kind of sour. It seems like we're kind of souring on Kyler Murray. If you could trade Kyler Murray and get draft picks, is this kind of the window to do so? Or I'm not really sure we're trying to acquire him at this point unless you get him for cheap. But I think it's worth investigating what his trade value is this year. But let's go ahead and put Deshaun Watson in here at number 9.
Mm-hmm.
And then are we going to put Kyler Murray as QB10?
It's like by default. Just don't. Dak is like a guy who I just.
Yeah, is there anybody else?
Tua, man. I mean, what's Miami gonna do this year? Is Tua their guy? You click Daniel Jones, dude. That's the guy, dude. I was thinking about him.
So QB9 this year. It wouldn't surprise me if he hovered around QB 8 to 10 for the next few seasons. And considering he did this without please name his receivers for me. Without looking them up. This year was a joke.
Darius Slayton. Isaiah Hodgins was like his number 1 at the end of the year.
Hodgins, they had Sterling Shepard for 2 games. They had a bunch of junk at the receiver position. And the dude, he proved everyone wrong. And I think he's going to earn himself a nice big contract here. Now, his low games, we see 13, 13, 12, 13, 9. Kind of frustrating up and down. But he somehow manages to get there at QB9 at the end of the year. Daniel Jones versus Kyler Murray, man, that's where we're at right now with these 2 quarterbacks. And I don't think there's anyone else that I'm willing to put over Kyler Murray. It's potentially Dak. It's potentially Daniel Jones. I think I'm probably just going to put Kyler Murray in here at 10.
Yeah, I agree.
But like if I'm drafting, even if it's a super flex draft tonight, Kyler Murray's probably not on my board.
I think after 9 is kind of my get me one of those guys in the top, at least 1, maybe 2 in a super flex. Get me one of those guys, and then I kind of I'll wait till like the next tier, which will be probably around the 20s when we start, maybe grabbing upside guys like a Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder, or maybe like a backdoor Geno, for the next couple of years. Yeah, Jordan. I think the Jordan Love discussion is like.
I don't know why. These are fantasy pro rankings. They have him way the hell down here, man. Below Purdy, Howell, Ridder. Like Jordan Love should be up here, I think, by Pickett at that point. But anyways, we got our top 10s locked in. I think for me, it's probably Dak and Daniel Jones, my next 2. I do like Tua, but man, like. That's a can of worms with his new concussion history. I don't know how comfortable I would be taking him in a startup draft right now. So for me, it's kind of a coin flip: Dak versus Daniel Jones. Where was Dak this year? Dak Prescott did finish
right down below Kyler.
So he averaged about 16.6 per game. He had the week 1 where he got hurt, but after that, kind of Daniel Jonesy looking numbers. He did have. Looks like a little bit higher of a floor. I think these guys. Look at the double-digit touch or the multiple touchdowns here. Those are nice too. And he did kind of get looser with the running down the stretch here. So to me, it's probably Dak or Daniel Jones here. Do you have one that you're leading more than the other?
Yeah, I mean, geez Louise, 2 NFC East quarterbacks. Dak's a little bit older. I mean, I think Daniel Jones for the longevity play, but it's like one of those things. It's like, is he their quarterback? And after next year,
yeah, it's.
I think Dak
if we saw the Giants give Daniel Jones like a 3 or 4 year deal, you'd feel a bit safer about that. That at least gives you the next 3-4 year window. But I'm going to put Dak in there just because I've seen it, I trust it, and even a down Dak year has been solid. He's still going to be a low end QB1. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and put Dak and then Daniel Jones. In a 12-man league, these guys are both still low-end QB1s. So I'm not going to get too too caught up in, I guess, making the decision on it. But what are you doing the same? Do you want Dak or do you want Daniel Jones?
Yeah, I'll take Dak here, and then Daniel Jones.
Now we get to the shit show.
Yeah, this is where I think we could see some divergence for sure. I think a name here is interesting that I considered for a second here over one of these two guys is Jared Goff. Has he earned the right to be the quarterback in Detroit for at least the next season?
So if I'm Detroit, I don't think you have to draft a quarterback in the first round this year. Because there's kind of 4 QBs in the first round this year. Let me actually pull up the link. You got Anthony Richardson, who's kind of crept into the top like 15, 20 picks or so. If you're Detroit and I want to give Jared Goff another year and see what he can do. But if you can, again, these guys right here, you got Tanner McKee for Stanford being drafted about 66th overall. You have Hendon Hooker here at 87. A lot of people like this Jared Hall at 105. You could probably wait and maybe grab a guy in maybe the second or third round, especially like that Tanner McKee at 66. Someone in the early third, I think makes a lot of sense. And where did Goff finish this year? QB 10.
Right. Yeah. Here's the concerning part about Goff. He had one game on the road greater than 15 points.
Where was it? Which one?
Week 7, week 18,
yeah. Wow. So he did finish the year extremely strong.
I mean, his home games. I mean, look at his home games. I mean, that's what you want to see.
I think they led the league in scoring at home this year.
Yeah.
So he's up there. But again, like you have questions there. I think you also have questions in a guy like Derek Carr. Who knows what's going on with Kirk Cousins? Do you gamble on a Tua or Trey Lance? Like we don't know what their futures hold. Well, this is tough. Like we're at the point where like nobody really wants these guys.
This is where like if you grab Kenny Pickett, he's either gonna make you look really smart or really dumb. You know what I mean? Because like Pittsburgh's known it. I mean,
would you rather have Kenny Pickett or Trey Lance right now?
Yeah, Trey is like he's the ultimate mystery box, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
do the Seahawks commit to Geno Smith? I don't know. I think what I want to do is I don't know how long Kirk Cousins is going to be a Viking. Kirk Cousins is getting up there in age. He had a great season. He was QB 8 this year. I feel like he's been a top 12 QB for the last 3-4 seasons. And you're attaching yourself to Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson, which is nice. But at this point, I think it's kind of one big tier where we could let's put Goff, Cousins together. We can throw in Tua, maybe Trey Lance. I don't know. But
yeah, I think
in your head, what do you want at 13?
The Trey Lance upside is tasty for me. It's the most upside on this list, and if I'm gonna gamble in this range, I want to take the most upside.
Okay, that's fair. And then I'm kind of thinking the same thing. I would assume he's going to beat up Brock Purdy.
Yeah, and then I mean here you have guys who Goff, Geno, Kirk. Derek Carr is interesting. I mean, New Orleans, if he lands on New Orleans, it's not a bad team to end up on. Russell Wilson bounce back. I mean, I just don't. I'm very sour on him.
Matthew Stafford's got some years left.
Yeah, I mean, what does he look? What does he look like? Bless you.
Thank you.
Tua is scary. I mean, Dynasty, he's very scary.
I think I'd rather have Jared Goff over Tua right now. So I'm going to do that.
I think Goff is Goff for me is the next guy. I think he's at least guaranteed himself another year. And then, I feel like Detroit's one of those teams where like they build up that team chemistry and they want to lock it, keep it in. If Goff is that guy, then.
But Kenny Pickett, man.
Yeah, I think the Pickett one of those
things. He did some good things with the Steelers down the stretch. Just looking at his numbers, kind of low teens as a floor. He didn't have any game over 20, so maybe there's more to be seen here with him. So I guess for me, I'm going to take the sure thing in Kirk Cousins. I'm going to lock myself into a couple of seasons of fringe QB1 play.
I think it's Geno for me here. I think they're gonna sign him to a deal.
So I think right now we're the guys we're looking at. These are like 2 to 3 year windows, whereas at the top when we started the show, we're probably looking at 5 to 10 year windows. So for the 2 to 3 year window, I kind of like Derek Carr in New Orleans. They're going to give him the benefit of the doubt. He's got at least a 2 to 3 year shot with the Saints. I'm probably going to put both these guys next here, and it can be in any order, but I'll put Derek Carr and Geno Smith here. And then it gets interesting, like Tua, Kenny Pickett. I think those guys would be some of my next players here. But you got a couple picks to make here. So what do you want to do at 16 and 17?
Yeah, I'm going to go Carr 16, Cousins 17. So like this little group we have here, Goff, Smith, Carr, like that. They're starters. They have some solid floor ceiling, they're safer options. And now we get Buck Wild here.
I'm going to run Russell Wilson in there. Sean Payton. I think, again, if we were to have this show next year at the same time, maybe Russell Wilson's up here at the fringe QB1 spot. Everything that could go wrong went wrong last year. Sean Payton's not going to take his shit. It could be a really nice bounce back season for the Broncos. They're going to get Javonte Williams back as well. And he's still got He's 33, 34 years old.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of in that back nine of his career, but he's still in the kind of like early stage of it where we could see a little Wilson renaissance. You don't have to like the guy, but as bad as his year was, dude was QB 16. So imagine that. That's his freaking floor, QB 16. So maybe we're too low on Russell Wilson right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm gonna switch things up here on us. I'm gonna take my guys back here. I'd rather have Russell Wilson over Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr, and Geno Smith for the next 3 years. They're tied financially to Russell Wilson for that amount of time, and QB 16, and everything went wrong last year. So I'm gonna do that. And I don't know. Do you have another guy besides Russell Wilson here? Are you looking at one of the other veteran quarterbacks? Are we looking? We probably could start talking rookie quarterbacks in a second.
Yeah, I mean, QB 18. I'm gonna go ahead and put Tua in here at 18, just because Miami is a good spot, and if they're going to give him a shot, I'll take the chance. I mean, he had some really, really nice games.
I want to see in terms of average. In terms of average, he was the same as Geno Smith, and Geno Smith did finish as QB5. So essentially, Tua was probably playing at a top 10 level when he was healthy. So I'll go ahead and put Tua in there as well. Actually, I'm gonna move Tua, but I'm gonna move Tua up just because if he gets over those concussion injuries, Cousins, Carr, Geno Smith, these guys are 1 to 2 year stopgaps potentially. Mm-hmm. And the upside of Tua, like what's Cousins' upside? QB8. What's Carr's upside? QB8. Geno Smith, fine. Right. Tua does have that top 5, top 6 potential. So I'll swing for the fences there. QB 19, who you got?
Give me Russ. I think that's a fair play on Russ there. And then now we start dancing with some rookies, some second-year guys who didn't really do much, like Mac Jones.
Yeah.
How much can we trust him? Who's going to be the quarterback in New York? I mean, Rodgers could potentially be on the move there. But how many years does he have left? When he comes out of his experience, is he going to want to play football?
Yeah.
Right now you can't take him. Things got to get settled out there.
What's the old stat is?
I really want to take 35. Jordan Love.
Well, this is what I was going to do. I was going to put Stafford there at 20, assuming he's got another 2 to 3 years left, and then I was going to put Jordan Love next.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty. I think Matthew Stafford. I mean, he took the year. I think the Rams just kind of they folded in, so we didn't really get to see them. No Cup. A lot of their guys were hurt.
Rams will be competitive the next. I don't know how long they have him under contract for. I would imagine another 2 or 3 years. So as long as Stafford's healthy and he's playing a full 17 games, he's going to be a top 20 QB in Dynasty, in real life fantasy. So I'm going to put Stafford there. Are you doing the same?
Yeah.
And then are you feeling the love?
Man. Putting
me,
Love over Pickett is.
I'm going to put Love and Pickett right next to each other at 21-22.
Yeah, those are the standouts for me as well.
You want Pickett above Love?
No, I want Love at Love 21. It's
honestly, it might be too low. If Love plays a full season, I think he's going to be better than QB 20.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of those ones where Rodgers gets traded and we put Jordan Love probably up and above Goff.
I would probably
right by Trey Lance, and I think that's
he's probably going to be in that Goff, Wilson, Tua tier for me. Maybe right behind Trey Lance as well. So it's a fun group. And now we're getting to the point where it's like, okay, do I want Rodgers or do I want a rookie? I'm thinking we got to look at the rookies, man. I think what I'll do here is let's scroll on down a little bit. The dog's going nuts.
Rosie's excited about this one.
You got C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, Will Levis, and Anthony Richardson. All 4 quarterbacks expected to go in the first round. C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young both top 5 picks. Levis, fringe top. He's going to be a top 10 pick, it seems like. And then Anthony Richardson's anywhere in the top 15 or top 20.
Do we want to incorporate them into these, or do we want to kind of like, once the draft happens, kind of slot them in and see where they end up?
Well, I think we're at that point where, like, if we're being honest,
every quarterback
would go higher than probably Love and Pickett in a startup draft.
Absolutely.
So I think we should insert them because that's kind of the landscape of things right now. Like, you're not going to draft any of these quarterbacks above those rookies.
No.
So for me, I'm going to put C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young up here together, and I'm gonna put them over. And I kind of want to move them up, up above. I'm gonna leave them.
How can you put them?
I'm gonna leave them there because I think if I'm being honest with myself, I would rather have C.J. Stroud over Matthew Stafford. I'd rather have C.J. Stroud over Geno, over Carr, over Cousins.
Let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
Somebody offers you Daniel Jones for the 101. You're taking the 101.
Yeah. So these guys are probably
Dak
over Kyler Murray, I think, man. These guys are up there.
Yeah, I mean, I think Stroud and Young, they're going to be guys who are going to immediately start and they're going to immediately go into the top 10 conversation. So I think 10 and 11.
Let's do this. I'm just going to throw them up here. I'm going to split the difference. I'm going to leave. Would you rather have Stroud, Young, or Lance at that moment? Is Lance the clear 3 of those guys? Because Stroud and Young, wherever they're going to go, there's going to be no questions on who's the future.
Right. I think the Trey Lance, Brock Purdy. I mean, you heard George Kittle this past week. Brock Purdy's our guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's Brock Purdy's job to lose, I think was the quote. Like, that's from George Kittle. I mean, one of the team captains.
The leader, yeah. I'm going to do that. I'm going to put them right behind Daniel Jones. I think for the next year, it takes rookies a little bit. Like, you're going to get Trevor Lawrence, who took the huge year 2 leap. But as far as next year, Daniel Jones will outscore C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young, I think. So that's kind of where I'm going to put those guys. Did you want to insert them into your rankings or leave them out?
You know, I always want to see landing spots, but I think just to kind of get the conversation started, I think that's a good spot.
Slide
right outside, just right outside the top 12 guys. I think it's fair. I mean, Stroud, Young, the order doesn't really matter yet.
It looks like Stroud, and just from following, looks like Stroud.
I've always been a Stroud guy. I know Young was kind of like he was seen as the QB1, but Stroud is gaining steam. I mean, Stroud is just fantastic.
But man, so we got our top 24 QBs. That's what you're dealing with, especially in a super flex league. You got to go this deep.
Who's missing? Who's the QB2 that's not on the list right now?
For next year, for the next couple of years is the question.
Right. I mean, yeah.
If Rodgers plays, it's him next year.
Right. What's the longevity there?
Where was Tannehill this year?
Tannehill, he was not there.
Maybe 26. He had a rough year. It's probably Mac Jones.
I think we've got to, from my perspective, with the unknown, I think Brock Purdy is the guy that if he does come back and take the job, he's a shoe. He's a QB2 easily. I mean, we could be swapping Trey Lance and Brock Purdy, mid-season next year.
And I mean, if you're in a startup draft, it's worth gambling on that because if Trey Lance gets hurt, and what if Trey Lance is a starter? What if he gets hurt? Then you're going to lock in a top 15 QB for fantasy football. So I agree with putting Purdy here next. I think the next guy, I don't mind taking a shot. It's a shot in the dark, but it's Sam Howell. I mean, they've already said that he's the starter going into the year. They have Carson Wentz there, who they're paying. He's their number one player on their books this year, and the fact that they're like, we're going to play Sam Howell is
how did the Colts pull that off?
The Eagles got a ransom for him, and then now the Colts. So it's working. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to start somewhere next year, but
yeah, what if he's in New York? I mean, if he's with the Jets, that's a really nice little speculation play. I think it's worth taking the guys who are kind of like, if they are named starters, these guys are higher on our board.
And Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to sign a 1-year deal somewhere. He's going to sign a 2 or 3-year deal to get some security. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna put Jimmy G next. You want the same?
Yeah, I'll take the same, and then I think we both agree on Howell. He's already been named the starter. He's got Jahan. He's got some nice pieces in play.
Is Atlanta going to give Ritter the year?
Yeah, I think that's the next guy that floated to my mind. I'm not entirely sure if he's a good quarterback, but I know that he's a fantasy producer. And who else is there?
At this point, it's probably where he should be. He should be like, I'd rather probably have Ritter over Mac Jones, Ritter over Tannehill and Rodgers.
Yeah, like Rodgers is definitely like Rodgers for me is that guy you take if like you're just like you're trying to win now. You're doing your startup and you're like, oh, my roster looks like it could win. Snag Rodgers as your like QB3, and then that's a great option.
But you were talking about Sam Howell, and I cut you off. My bad. But Washington, man, that's a fun offense. Howell, again, in a year from now, we could be talking like, what if Howell is like, yep, we're going to move forward with him. He's going to be our guy for the next, he's got 2 or 3 more seasons on his contract. The one game where he came in this year, the team got excited. He brought energy to the sideline, the stands. And it seems like he is a locker room kind of guy where the team really, really likes him. So it wouldn't surprise me if Howell, like if you could acquire Howell for like a late second round, any kind of low capital in the draft, put him on your bench and see what happens because he's going to get a trial year this year. And if it goes well, cool. You got something there.
There's I could tell you a story where Howell is who Trubisky should have been.
Sure. And
Trubisky was seen as like a top 10 pick, right? So
yeah, but I like Howell a lot. I think at this point, I'll put Desmond Ritter here and Mac Jones together.
Mac Jones just we've seen 2 years of Mac now, and it's like he's just a little potato out there.
He needs stability at the offensive coordinator position.
Yeah, that would really go a long way.
Because he can play bumper bowling. He can do – like if you put Mac Jones in the 49ers offense, he'd probably be pretty decent.
Mm-hmm.
He can do Brock Purdy things. So I think it's about finding the right system for a guy like Mac Jones. We'll see if the Patriots can do it. Do you want to lock in Ritter at 28?
I'm having like this like complex between Ritter and Malik Willis right now because I don't know what Tennessee's game plan is for the next few years, but I just know that Tannehill is not the game plan.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Malik Willis is the game plan either. Derrick Henry's he's the offense, and he's could fall off the rails at any time. And if that happens, what does that offense look like?
I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go to the rookies, man. Because
I think so.
Screw these guys and their questions. I want to put the rookies there because Will Levis is a top 10 pick. I know he seems to be like the quarterback this year that everyone's kind of got the widest range of opinions on. But he's got tremendous arm talent. Like he has a really fun throw. And then Richardson's going to be one of those guys that can break the game with his legs. I'd rather take a shot on one of these guys at the moment than tread the kick the tires on some of these guys. But Malik Willis, I think I'm more excited about Willis than Jones or Ritter.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's got the legs. I'll do the same thing from the rookie perspective. Get those guys in there. I mean, I feel like
now
30.
Like, how much deeper do we want to go?
Right. Maybe get at least like QB3 through. I mean, give me Rodgers. Put Rodgers in there. I mean, the guy's like, he's got probably 1 to 2 years in him, especially if he gets to a contender.
But my thinking is, if he's going to play again, and it's not for the Packers, he's not going to play just one more season for a team.
Right.
Like he's gonna get you 2 seasons a minimum. So that's QB 30 off the board. Sure, you'll get a fringe top 15 QB, and then we're with the castaways here: Tannehill, Ritter, Jones, Zach Wilson, Winston, Willis. This is the ugly party.
This is probably the Willis, Ritter, Jones upside, right? I mean, the rest of these guys are kind of just like, if they get starter jobs somewhere, they're bye week fillers.
Yeah.
In the Superflex. But you can't feel good throwing any of these guys. I think my order would be, I think Ritter's got the most upside, and then Willis, and then Mac Jones.
Okay.
And then I guess you throw Tannehill in there because he's,
a year or two, yeah.
Yeah, and we've seen him at least like produce numbers should he be healthy and playing. And the rest of these guys are, I don't even want to put them in here.
We went 34 deep. I think we went deep enough. These are going to be guys that are free agents probably. I'll put Zach Wilson in there to round out my 35.
Yeah, I think that's respectable. I mean, honestly, maybe Mike White over Zach Wilson.
Put him right behind him.
Worst case, if Mike White, if the Jets make a play, Mike White is probably their starter, which is, I mean, I can't feasibly draft Matt Ryan, Brissett.
Yeah, these are all free agents on your waiver wire at that point.
For sure.
But man, we just did our top 36. We probably went deeper than we needed to be. And we had some overall, we had pretty much the same kind of tiers in our heads. You went with Mahomes, Josh Allen, Hurts, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert as your top 5. I did Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Hurts, and Herbert. So the same top 5, both have Lawrence at 6. We kept Lamar at 7 and Fields at 8, Watson at 9, Murray at 10, Dak at QB 11, followed by Daniel Jones. And then we get to our rookies, which it's going to be – let me go to the draft order. Who's taking these rookies?
Yeah, I mean, Houston's got to be locked into a quarterback.
Houston, and then is someone going to hop Indianapolis?
That's the big question. If not, Indianapolis has to grab a quarterback unless they really feel.
Levis?
Yeah, I mean, do they feel good enough about Levis? I don't. We'll find out.
But who has enough capital to move up? Like, Arizona's not moving up. Indianapolis would be a team that could move up over in Houston. Seattle probably not going to do it. Detroit's not going to do it. The Raiders aren't going to do it. I can't see any team hopping up to do this.
I mean, yeah, maybe the Raiders could be an interesting. I don't know if they have.
You're Chicago, man. You get access to just take the top player. I know you're trying to move back a little bit, but I just think who's gonna?
Were the Raiders too much all in on Tom Brady?
Probably.
What do they have to? I mean, do they have anything else? I mean, they'd have to give up a lot of future picks.
39 cents. Yeah, they don't have an excess this year.
They got a couple fifths. They'd have to give up next year to move up, but.
Well, I guess they're gonna have to. They're gonna have to get some compensation for Derek Carr, so maybe that gives them ammo.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting.
If they don't make a move, that's an interesting team to watch. Carolina's probably. I mean, they. There's a few teams that could. It's if they're willing to pay the future.
Yeah. So congrats, Houston Texans. You're getting Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. You guys get one of the two. And then we'll see if a team wants to hop Houston to get their choice at it. But either way, Indianapolis needs a QB. Will Levis, interesting. Might be a little too high for that. But I don't know. It's going to be exciting. And then after that, we got into the questions. Everything after this is just speculation, and we're just basically flipping coins here. Trey Lance, Jared Goff, Russell Wilson, Tua, Kirk, Derek Carr, Geno, Stafford, Jordan Love, and Kenny Pickett. I think these guys are all QB2s for the 2023 season. And again, if Trey Lance is the starter, he'll probably be pushed up in these boards, going into the season. But don't sleep on Brock Purdy, man. He's super steady. George Kittle loves him. And down here at the end of the draft, Sam Howell, worth looking into. Will Levis and Anthony Richardson, pending landing spot. They could move up or down. And then Rodgers is probably going to play another year or two. So if you're looking for cheap deals, that's probably where we're going to be at. Any final thoughts here, Jesse, as we wrap up?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of question marks, not a lot of stability, but we got a lot of young guys coming up, and I think those young guys are the ones that you got to watch out for and, kind of build your core around. Because, we got the guard is changing. The Stafford's going to be retired soon. Cousins is probably not long for this league, much longer. So it's all about these young guys. How do they turn out?
And I think this last fantasy season proved just how valuable having a top 5 QB is. Everyone wanted to wait on QBs the last few seasons. You can't do that anymore. You have to have a guy that can get you 20 plus points at the quarterback position. Otherwise, you're going to be irrelevant unless you strike gold with it. If you took a Daniel Jones and a Geno Smith in the free agency, something like that, like that's what's going to swing it. So the top 8 quarterbacks are really fun. And then, we'll see. We got Derek Carr maybe going to the Saints. I think his trade deadline date's like next week. I think the 15th.
The 15th, right? Yeah.
So we might get some Derek Carr news next week. We got the draft combine coming up, and then free agency in March. So we're getting to it. It was a lot of fun. That's going to do it for us, though. Thank you guys for watching the show. I don't know about next weekend or the weekend after, but we'll sync up and we'll get the running back show for you guys. And, thank you guys for your time.
That'd be a juicy one.
Enjoy the Super Bowl, man. It's going to be a good game. And, thank you guys for watching. Peace.